Thank you guys for joining us again today here at Pursuit of Purpose. I'm Robbie.
I'm Chuck.
And today we have with us a very special guest. I'm going to let her introduce herself, tell us a little bit about herself and what she does.
Well, thanks for having me today. My name is Gabrielle Blanco. I am the owner of Buckstin Brewing Company in Nederland, Texas, with my partner and husband, Justin Buchanan Lopez, and we are currently building our second location in Beaumont, Texas.
All right. Wow. So you've got one. It's doing really well, and we're expanding.
We are expanding.
All right. Well, Gabby, if you don't mind me calling you Gabby, is that okay?
Yes, everyone goes by Gabby for me. So,
Where are you from originally?
So I was born in Miami, Florida, and I grew up in Miami, Cooper City, Fort Lauderdale area, Pembroke Pines, kind of all of South Florida. And then I moved to Texas when I was about 15 years old. I did a little bit of high school here and college and everything. So half my life I've been here.
So what brought you here? Was there a story behind that?
My mom is originally from Port Arthur.
Oh.
My dad's from Venezuela. So
wow.
My mom's an only child. As her parents were aging, it was kind of always the goal to get back to being able to take care of her parents and everything. My sister's 4 years older than me. So whenever she was looking at colleges, we were pretty much only considering Texas colleges so that we knew that the family could all eventually move to Texas and be all together there. Of course, this is 2008 in South Florida. Where did the bubble burst? In 2008 in South Florida. So it was a little bit more challenging for my father to come out here at the same time as us. And it was a progress to get all four of us out here at the same time. But yeah, that was the main reason for moving back over here, was to take care of my grandparents.
All right. So you said four of you.
My mom, dad, sister, and myself.
Sister. Mm-hmm. Is your sister younger or older?
4 years older than me.
4 years older. You're the baby.
I'm the baby.
So she's the trailblazer, and you get the benefit of her going ahead. And
I mean, people argue that, the second child's the fearless one, and he's just a lot more aggressive about things. So my sister is the sweetheart.
Oh, okay.
Never did a thing wrong in her life.
Right.
It was more problematic. So,
Y'all have a good relationship?
Yes.
That's good. Does she still live here?
Yeah.
Nearby? Okay, that's good. So, how are your parents still with us?
Mm-hmm.
Still alive? Everything's good? What do they think about your restaurant brewing company venture?
It's great. After maybe about 2 years after I opened that Nederland location, the building next door touching us came for sale. Uh-huh. And that's actually the building that they purchased to move their business into. So my mom and sister together own a boutique and a salon called on Boston. Boston Avenue is the downtown historic street in Nederland, Texas. We're a Dutch settlement there, so that's where we have the windmill and the little wooden shoes, museum and all of that. So they bought the building next door, so we were literally sharing walls now.
Blonde on Boston. That's a really cute. Blonde.
Yeah.
That makes more sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
Yes. Okay.
The blonde would make sense for.
I like both of them. Yeah.
It could work. My mom is blonde, so that would work.
Well, what was discipline like in your home growing up?
Well, we are all of us. Well, I guess besides my mother, but my father, my sister, and I did all of our education in Catholic school. So Catholic school, especially Hispanic Catholic school, in Venezuela, like my father was, he was in the Merchant Marines and went to Jesuit universities. So it's almost like the parents don't even have to establish their own discipline in the home, because you are disciplined properly at school. We have our priests, and we didn't have nuns. My father had nuns and stuff too, but it just kind of carried over. It's quite strict with everything that's expected of you. If I don't even want to say falling behind in grades, because getting a C in, most schools is not falling behind. But when you only have 40 or 50 kids in your grade, getting a C is falling behind. And then they will no longer have you in the school, because they don't have all of these, public funded assistants that can come in for the people that are falling behind and give you that extra help that you need. So, the pressure is on you,
obviously,
from a very young age, that not even make good grades. It was so competitive. Not only did I have to make A's, I had to make hundreds. I had to make perfect grades.
I never would have thought of that from private school. Right. I would have never thought of that.
Ever. Yeah. It was just the competitive nature of going to Catholic school in an area where everyone was super educated. So you just I mean, it was just instilled. Like, I mean, without anyone having to say anything. So, yeah, I guess the discipline aspect kind of came from that too.
And do you think that still is paying off today for
Oh my
you,
gosh,
though?
clearly.
After going into business,
I'm so glad that I had that when I was growing up, because that was a very easy transition into kind of what I do now, where you have to be so intrinsically motivated. You can't have other people setting expectations for you when you're self-employed.
Right.
So,
yeah. So going back to Dad a little bit, you mentioned a little bit about this transition from moving from Florida to Texas, and it everybody eventually trickled here. You know, like Mom came, and then the girls, and so what did Dad do? Did he do the same thing here as there, or did he have to change?
So my parents, the longest that they've ever lived in one place was when they lived in South Florida, in Miami and stuff. My father was a television producer for Univision, for plus over 30 years, really.
Oh, wow.
Started in New Jersey. They moved to Southern California, Laguna Hills, then Miami whenever my mom was pregnant. And that's where I was born, in Miami. So that was the longest that they ever stayed in one place for those 15 years. But by that time, he was kind of ready to go off on his own and start his own production company and everything when we were choosing to move to Texas before his retirement age. So, yeah, he's an Emmy Award-winning television producer.
Yeah, so, that's awesome.
That is.
He has quite a name for himself. He's very inspiring. I always say top 5 coolest people I've ever met, but he's my dad, so he's a cool one.
You're a little biased.
Yeah, I'll talk to him one day, but he's interesting.
We'll get you to hook that up for us.
Yes. Bring Dad on with you. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Catholic prep school, okay? And for you personally, was there any training past high school for you? Did you go into any particular academic field or any post-high school training?
Yeah, so I went to Nederland High School. I wanted to go to a public school just to kind of see what it was like for a year and a half. And whenever we had moved here, then are y'all familiar with the TAL program?
Yes. I had a daughter that did it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
She graduated with her associate's degree.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, I found out about that. It's called Texas Academy of Leadership in the Humanities. Skipping pretty much, or, running conjunctively your junior and senior year, doing all of that, living on campus, all those things. So I applied for that, got in. So went there my junior year in 2009. So did that 2009 to 10 to 11, and, graduated from that 11. And then I went to Texas A&M after that. And then got my degree there.
You didn't let it out when you said it. You held it the whoop. You said Texas A&M without the. Oh, okay.
I wear my ring sometimes.
It's when it's advantageous.
You have
circles.
You've fallen from the pure faith. I'm not going to say
to UT, and though we
house divided,
right?
But I always would say, like, if you took UT out of the city of Austin, it doesn't have as much character as these crazy people at A&M do. And I thought there was something really endearing about that. And really just fell in love with how much people will bleed maroon, which I know.
Yes.
But
we have a son who's an Aggie.
Yes. And it's just like such a different thing. And I just thought it was so cute. Whimsical. And we were happy there.
Good. And you finished your bachelor's there? Is that what I heard?
So I did international communications and media, and then ended up actually getting a double major in Spanish because I wanted to move to Spain for a little bit. But I wanted to do it on my own. With being in the international program, they will give you resources for it. But I always said if I wanted to do a study abroad, I didn't like these ones where they kind of just like held your hand and like they take you there and whatever. I was like, no, I want to like find my own apartment, find my own school, all of that. So I did that right before my senior year. And took some classes at this university called Antonio de Nebrija in Madrid. So I lived in Madrid for about 4 months.
Okay.
So I did that, but then you have to come back and do one more semester at A&M to get like an A&M degree. So transferred my hours from there back over, and graduated in December of 2013.
So yes, we've had a foreign exchange student on here from Italy.
Okay.
And you're kind of the other way.
Yeah.
So what was that like? Did they accept you there? Did they treat you like,
I mean, I'm, ethnically ambiguous. So like they can't, fully tell.
We can't tell by looking at you.
My dad's side of the family, actually, like their bloodline is from the Canary Islands, right off of the coast of Spain. So, I am Spanish. I was working really, really hard to learn Spanish as an adult. It's not that simple. Of course, I understood so much of it being in my home, but I never had to speak it back. Like I was never absolutely forced to speak
You
it
didn't
back.
think in Spanish.
I didn't think in Spanish and everything. So I really realized once I got to college, like, wait, this is a skill I really need to learn and learn grammatically and do all that. So it was tough, but yeah, everyone's great. I mean, it's the capital of Spain too. So there's so many, people that are not ethnically Spanish that are living there. So it was wonderful.
That's really cool.
So what were you able to experience when you were there other than on campus? I mean, were you able to get into the Spain life a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, once you're in, pretty much anywhere in Europe, how cheap it is to get to any other country. But I mean, Spain itself being so large, like every weekend, €20 you can get on a round trip bus ticket or train ticket. I did the running of the bulls. I did Pamplona. Yeah. So the San Fermin festival happened to be happening. And this is a quick, fast, crazy story, but
please share.
So I was living in a building where this guy would pretty much rent out closets to people for like €12 a week. But like, what am I complaining about? We all shared a restroom. It was like 16 people that would live in one apartment.
Wow.
But it's cheap. It was awesome. I had made a new friend that week at school, which to this day is still one of my very best friends. In my wedding, I was in her wedding. Like, I visit her all the time. She lives in Georgia, but her name is Diana. I had just met her, and there was these guys from Glasgow that lived above us, and they were like, "Hey, meet at the stadium downtown, and it's €24, and it's a round trip bus ticket, and they give you a bottle of liquor with it." I don't even.
Wow.
A ticket and a bottle of liquor to bring you to San Fermin and back.
Now that's hospitality.
Yes.
So that, the border of France and back where the running of the bulls is. So I'm like, oh, cool. It's a 4-hour drive. So I meet there. It's like 8 a.m. But like, we don't have like cell phones and stuff that work over there. Diana doesn't show up. So it's me and all these dudes from Glasgow. And I'm like, whatever. I mean, I'm getting on this bus. And, made some other friends too. So they drive us there. And I was like, okay, cool. We're going to see the village and stuff. There's like 200 people that live there during the year. And then, we'll get back on the bus and drive home. And I'm the only one who like really understands Spanish on that bus because it's all these like students and other things from all these other countries. These Glasgow, they have no idea what. So then they make an announcement. So we get there at 9 a.m. because we had to leave at 5 a.m. to get on this bus.
Wow.
Get there at 9. They make the announcement. They're like, meet here. They're like, we're dropping you off here. Meet here, same time tomorrow. And I'm like, tomorrow, like at 9 a.m. Like, there's no hotels in this city. There's nothing in the city. I'm like, all right, here we go.
Wow.
So that next 24 hours was one of the
what an adventure.
But the bulls don't run until the next morning at 7 a.m.
So you're exhausted by the time they're.
Yeah, you're just trying to stay alive, honestly, at this point. Because these people are, and it was the first day of the festival.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my gosh.
That's next level stuff right there.
Some amazing experiences going over there, just kind of missed.
Holy moly.
So, no, it was wonderful. That was a fun time.
I mean, you are just, trips like that, you're making it up on the fly. Like, where am I going to...
Like, taking turns, like, napping in a field, like, holding her bags. Because, like, they're just going to rob you.
Right. People like the group staying awake and watching everything. Yeah, my word.
I'm beyond impressed at your bravery and everything. Like here you were, but here you are by yourself, little American girl out there on her own.
Yes.
And you did it. You did all of it. That's crazy. It's awesome, though, those memories. I can see the sparkle in your face when you talk about it. That's amazing.
I'm sure it didn't feel that way in the moment, but still, there you are.
For a second, you're like, 24 hours. But then, like, once you think, then you're like, well, what am I going to do? I don't have money. I don't, like, even if I did have money, there's no hotels to stay at.
Right.
It was a tiny, tiny village. Like, I mean, people are all over the world just jam-packed through the street.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Yes. That's a great story.
Thank you for sharing that. That's great. I love it.
But, so, yeah.
So back to the States. You finished that semester at A&M. Then what?
Then I graduated. And at that point, everyone in my family, mom, dad, sister, were living in Nederland. So I was like, finally, I want to move back to where they are. So I moved back here. And even with all my degrees and with all my experience, so much trouble finding a job during that time. It's during what they were calling like hiring freezes and all of that, 2013. And it was tough even even with what I felt that I had to offer. So I went back, which is like this, storyline of my life of back into hospitality. So I went back to working for a Greek family, the Megas family that owns some properties and the Scooter restaurant down there and stuff. So I went back to like bartending, assistant managing, different things for them. Just in the meantime, I'm like, you know what? No pressure. Let me just keep making money, save my money. Me and my sister got a little townhouse together and just kind of worked that for a while until I got a job offer as a paralegal. And I was like, well, let me get into that. That's always interested me. So I worked as a paralegal for a while too, and I loved that. But the attorney that I was working for was running for judge, and like we knew he was going to get it. So we were kind of like, looking at the other options. And I had my other options from other law firms, but they kind of get like skeezier and skeezier of the things they were kind of like asking me to turn my back to. And I didn't really like that. And then he did get elected. So, I worked for a couple more months. And once I knew like he was about to take office, randomly Beaumont ISD calls me and they were like, hey, we'll bypass all of your teaching certifications because you have more than 12 hours of 300 or 400 level Spanish classes that I took in Sweden. Do you want to teach elective Spanish at middle school? I'm like, why not? So then I just took a teaching job.
Wow.
At Beaumont. Right. And I taught for 2 years.
Okay.
But it was fun. I really liked that age.
Yeah.
And, elective. Like, these kids just need to breathe sometimes. This is right when all this stuff had happened in Beaumont ISD. They call it the sinking ship, when all the embezzling happened. And so, just kind of being there for those kids at that time was all they really needed. Yeah. And so I enjoyed it, but it was very stressful. And then finally, after that, I was like, okay, it's time to follow. What I always wanted to do was like have a salon, do hair, like do like, cosmetology. So at that point, me and my husband had started flipping houses while we were living in them. And this is kind of like where everything turned in our lives. So he always worked in logistics with the refineries. So we always had these great jobs right after school. Like he went to school for management information systems, but got right on in the plants very early on. These really nice white collar jobs. Always treated us great, but like we had very different examples of like what it looks like to like work your passion. He had parents that were very young and they got a job in the plant and his mom was a nurse. I had parents who had me, my dad was 40 and my mom was older, and I've only seen them follow their passions. And I was so perturbed that like, the last 6 years we're just like working these jobs that we don't like and we're just miserable. And like, why do we hate our job? Like life shouldn't be like this. Then I had a death very close in the family that spring when I was teaching. And I came home from that funeral. I was like, that's enough. This is the last time that we're ever going to sit here and question anything about like being happy, because I remember I was at my uncle's funeral and the people that showed up to that and the way that they could speak about him and the way that he had like changed their life. And I was like, nobody would say that about me in these jobs that I was doing. And he was in education. He was a tenured professor up at Marshall University, like the We Are Marshall. Like,
yes.
Yeah. So the way that campus turned around and the way that people could speak about like him living his dream and doing all of that, I was like, nobody would say that about me and Justin. Like they would never think that. So at that point, I was like, I'm resigning. I'm going to cosmetology school. I don't care what it costs, but I'm going to do it. And I'm going to open a salon and watch. And what do you want to do? And we always had the same interest in, well, I always did hospitality, but we would make wine together. We'd make beer together. He'd been doing that since he was 18. At this point, I think he's 27 or so. And we were like, let's start on the business plan. Let's open a brewery. Let's open a brewery and a restaurant. So from that point forward, took 3 years to build the business plan. I went to cosmetology school. By the time I had graduated, I had a full clientele within like 3 months. I opened up my own salon within 3 months.
Wow.
Then the salon with the boutique with my mom and sister while I was still building Buckstin. And I did that up until maybe like 3 years ago when, Buckstin, the brewery just got too big. So that was kind of, the long short of how, all these careers have kind of led us into this.
Well, you skipped a very important part that I want to ask about.
What portion?
So somewhere between Madrid and Buckstin, there was this guy named Justin.
Yeah.
And I don't know where you guys discovered each other or how. And I would love to hear that.
So I went to college at the TEL program. So, you go at 16. Yeah. So I didn't realize I needed to ask my administrators this, but I went and tried out for the cheerleading squad at Lamar University because I was like, that sounds like so much fun. But I was 16. Then I made it. And then the administrators were pissed because they were like, why did you think that you could just go do? I was like, why didn't I think I could?
Why wouldn't you?
Always say that you wanted to be involved in the university and stuff. And I don't think that they thought like, because then there's some NCAA rules too when we were traveling because I was so young. And I was like, but why? People can graduate early. And so anyway, they let me go with it. And so I was on the cheerleading squad and I was at a party my like junior year and, a girl on my squad, it was her birthday party and I met Justin there. Her name was Destiny. So she wanted the party to be a D theme. Everyone had to dress as something that started with a D. And I dressed as a Dixie cup and Justin dressed as a doormat. And that's how we met. But I was so young. And then he realized, we were like talking at this party and stuff. And like, they're so overprotective of me because everyone knows that I'm younger than everyone. Everyone's very, safe around everything. And, this guy's talking to me. We have all these mutual friends of like people that I know through other people. And then he like finds out I'm 16. He's like, never mind. Done. So then we kind of just had mutual friends until I was a little older. And then, we reconnected, obviously, once I had like gone off to A&M and then, talked again during then and started dating. But yeah, I've known Justin over half my life now.
That's awesome.
I met him at that party, 16.
He's been a doormat the whole time, too. And he poor guy. God.
My goodness.
No, I did not know that is
so that's how we met.
Got you.
Yes, so we had dated my senior year or my last year at A&M.
Right.
And then whenever I wanted to move to Spain, he broke up with me and I was like, why? I just want to move to Spain for a little bit. He's like, you can't just move to Spain. Like, I have a job.
Like, who does that?
I'm like, why can't you come visit me? He's like, it's not like that. Like, you can't just. So he broke up with me for a little bit. And then whenever I came back, we go back.
Can't be your long distance doormat. It doesn't work that way.
That way.
I love the part about pushing the limits of the TAL program.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you guys create this whole program, which is supposed to be college immersion.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think we're going to do other than go to frat parties where I get that, but campus life, so I love it. That kind of like push their whole
the director
philosophy.
Came super close there. It was Dr. Gagne at the time. She had been with Kelly and all these other things, and I had actually come out of retirement to kind of fix up the program a couple of years before I got there. And her and I became very close because she was like, "You're the first student that we've ever had that." Really has tried to go out for these more like social sides of the university, put our money where our mouth is. We say that you want to be a part of the university, then don't condemn me for
absolutely
going out and doing it.
Yes.
It really was not a thought in my mind of like, oh, ask forgiveness later. I just really thought like, why couldn't I do this?
Correct.
Yeah.
Philosophically, I thought that's what the program was for.
Yeah. You thought it's what they expected of you anyway. Yeah. Why not?
Join any other student thing. I never lied about my age. You have to put all your information. You have an L number, the Lamar student number. I had everything like normal.
Yeah.
So
yes.
Yeah. And that was a really cool year to be there. So the first year, it was just the cheerleading squad. Then the next year is when they brought football back. Mm-hmm. So then the umbrella that was called like Spirit Team got to split. You chose dance or cheer. So, two separate teams, and I chose dance. And, I was a lieutenant on the dance team when I was 17, 18 years old. All these people that are way older than me. And it was such a cool experience to be there that like first year that football
I'm just getting this image of trend-setting Gabby here. Yeah. I'm like the first person. Every now and then you meet these people who go through things like that, and they are the first, and people look around like, well, we never thought about that. And so there you go.
Because I wasn't thinking either.
No, I'm technically in high school, but I'm doing all these things. I love it. So we decided to do the brewery.
Yes.
Okay. In Buckstin. Now that's not a common name, and I know there's a little story as to how that came to be.
Yeah, the easiest way to get like a trademark or copyright or anything is obviously on things that don't exist already, and you also can't get them on last names or like geographical areas. So, creating a word was pretty important to me in finding a name for the brewery. 2 syllables. So Justin's last name is Buchanan Lopez. It's hyphenated. Buchanan side of his family, super involved. That's his mom's side. Raising him and his grandfather, his name was, everyone called him Buck. Everyone's last name is Buchanan. So they had 6 sons too. All the 6 sons are also Buck. But, he was Papa Buck. just a huge part of raising him. Amazing man. And Justin's name is Justin, so I put Buck and Stin together because that's a fake word, so that if you get a trademark on it. And it kind of, rolled, because like when you see it written, people think like Buckskin and stuff, and then they realize, oh wait, it's a little bit different. And then with our logo, it's pug with antlers and stuff. We had a pug at the time. Nancy was the pug. That's the whole picture of everything. This one right here with
that's cute
and everything. So then when you get to the rebuttal round of trademarking, because there is a last name, Buxton, that phonetically sounds like Buckstin. So we had to then argue, well, it's Southeast Texas. We're just big hunters down here, buck like a deer. That's why we put those antlers on there.
Yes.
Argue with the
that's perfect.
The trademark, so it worked out in our favor.
And then it worked.
Yeah,
there
never been in my life, nor has Justin. So
yes.
It worked out.
And I love it that the two of y'all are together. Is there anybody else in the family that's involved with y'all's business, or are y'all pretty much the only family? The rest are employees?
Yeah, we're the only owners. We have no investors, nothing. 100% owned.
All right. So when it comes to, or came to deciding on brewing, so obviously, if folks are familiar with those particular things, I mean, there's all kind of angles you can go. I mean, with just flavors and different ales and different things like that. Did you guys start out with any like some basics that exploded from there? Is there a story behind how it developed?
We can go into so quickly, like how we got into it. It was, this joke that Justin and his friends would have when they were like 19 years old, living at his mom's house, going to Lamar, of we're too young to buy beer. Let's make it, get a little kit, make it in his closet. Terrible beer. They drank all of it. They didn't care. There was alcohol in it. It's some prison wine at that point, essentially. Then whenever he bought his first house, right when he graduated, he built this really nice bar in the back, got way more into the science of it, because, they always say with brewing, oh, it's art and it's science. No, it's not. It's all science.
Yeah.
It's 100% science. So he got way more focused on the science of it. Started making some good beers then, got a lot more equipment. And then, life gets busy. Once we got engaged and got married, and we started flipping that house to save up some money to get to the next house to flip that one too. And when you're flipping a house, when you're living in it, it's pretty exhausting.
Yeah.
You kind of bring your living down to one room at a time. Everything else is like a construction zone. So we kind of lost our passions there for a few years. Then once we finished that house, moved into the next one when I was teaching, I was like, I want to get into making wine. I can use so much of your stuff that we've just packed away for years. And once that happened, our competitive natures both. So we were like, then he's like, well, I want to start brewing again. I'm like, cool, start brewing again.
Let's do it.
I started making wine. He starts brewing beer again. And that house was just like a brewery, essentially. It was awesome. We just were experimenting with stuff all the time.
One big lab.
So many different types of beers that, we kind of developed for Buckstin at that time that we didn't even know that we were doing. Oh. So, all of this was going on behind the scenes whenever I did say earlier about, that one death in the family that kind of resets the way that you think. Yeah. We realized this was a passion and we were good at it. And, there's this brewery boom in the United States. And we're looking at all these other breweries across the nation. We visit someone not to this is kind of bad. Y'all are doing everything wrong and still succeeding. And we make good beer.
Yeah.
But in Texas licensing, you can't make both beer and wine. There's a better profit margin on beer. So, I put my winemaking aside and was like, we'll focus on beer. And that's when we started the business plan just for that. So, yeah, we have, of course, styles and everything too that we knew were drinkable. We say drinkable, but drinkability, that they have when it goes down easy. They want to drink more of it.
Yeah.
It's what we in craft beer say is the drinkability of it. Okay. You never want to be just it's palatable. No, it's
whoa.
Yeah, we want to
drinkable.
Have more of it.
That's the language, drinkable. So I don't know, you tell us how it went, but I envision you guys having your own little quasi lab, which is this house that you're living in, and you're making notes as you go, this is working, this is not.
Yes, everything is. Some of those early journals, I always want to frame them one day.
Why don't you? That would be awesome.
The second one, I'm gonna, I'll surprise Justin one day. Put up some of those early notes and everything. But Yeah.
Put up some bad recipes so that if people want to steal it, they can,
We are, that's the beautiful.
I'm kidding.
We are like in this beautiful craft brewing community. Like, it's not just this like nature of like sharing everything. It is like you go above and beyond to not only like give people your recipes, like you will provide them with ingredients. You'll do
That's
everything.
awesome.
It's this like camaraderie, this like sense of sharing. It's absolutely incredible. Like what we can do.
I love that.
We had this amazing Pilsner not long ago, Bob's Premium Pills. Email the brewer, the head brewer and the owner, the brewery himself, literally sends us the whole recipe. This is how I do it. Because that's what we always say. Like, we can give you the whole recipe. We can tell you exactly what we do, but can you do it like I do it?
Right.
Can you, 80% of this brewing is sanitation and cleaning and all of these tedious things. Are you going to sit there and watch it like I watch it? You're going to test it every day like I'm testing it. So, you can give them the recipe. You can give them whatever. You can lead a horse to water. Can't make him drink.
Yes.
Yes.
So. Yeah, and maybe that's where a little bit of that balance between the discipline and the art come in. Mm-hmm. The discipline of, like I said, hygiene and all those other things, and then the creativity side.
Yeah, we don't gatekeep anything.
Yeah,
at all.
Yeah, that's really cool.
With our beer, nothing. I mean, it's just not the nature of it.
Right.
There are too many interesting cities and areas that have like 15 breweries within a 2-block radius.
Atlanta is crazy.
And whenever one does well and are producing good product, everyone does well because people love a destination area for breweries and they all work together like that. So it's like the bigger love that we have for craft beer and food together, the better everyone does. So like that's all we want. We just want more breweries that, produce awesome product.
That is really cool.
It's really cool.
Yeah, I love the community side of that. Mm-hmm. And you and I have known each other for a little bit, and I know that y'all, here we go, Texas. Y'all have actually gone as far as not only to communicate with other folks that are, brewing across the, but you've actually traveled and done like your own personal, research. Yeah. Even back to Europe, I believe, right? Yeah. Maybe you can talk to our folks about that a little bit.
Yeah. So, of course, like with other breweries in the United States, it's a lot easier to get out there. We do Craft Brewers Conference every year where you get to collab with other brewers. We are really good friends with a lot of breweries out of Houston that we can run ideas back and forth with. A lot of people that we just know online too, through the brewery forum on Reddit and different things like that. But as we're building out the second location this past springtime, we were really thinking like, we need to make it back to Europe. We need to go back to Belgium, get back to like the roots of the kinds of beers that we like to make, German beers, but, all over Germany, not just Munich that we've been to before. Let's go to these smaller areas. All the reps, these specialty malt reps, these hop companies, all of it, they would always say, in passing, if you ever find yourself in Bamberg, Germany, let us know. If you ever do this. So I'm like, you know what?
Let's test it.
Just email all of them and just see. Hey, what if I do find myself in Bamberg, Germany? Like, what could y'all do? And let me tell you, everyone came through. Everyone rolled out their
Wow.
We went to the European Brewers Conference. That was absolutely incredible. So we did that for 3 days in Prague. Got reacquainted with Czech beer because the last time we were in Prague was like in 2016. We didn't know anything then, really. We thought we knew something. We thought we were appreciating it. Then we had no idea what we weren't appreciating about the beautiful history of Czech beer and all that they've created for us. And then we do that in the Czech Republic. We get to go to Pilsner Urquell that created Pilsner Urquell and, go into their catacombs where they have all of the stuff, and see their brewery, like do these hands-on tours. We go to Bamberg, Germany, where they created smoked malts. We get to go into the factory with their malt master who can like pull a piece of grain and tell you which day of germination it's on. Like one-on-one tours with all of these people, just show us everything. It was absolutely incredible. It really was. We just did that in May and we were there for 2 weeks and we did 9 countries.
Wow.
2 weeks. Like it was insane, but like, you barely sleep. You're just too excited. And it was just absolutely incredible. Like really getting fired up again about why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, I see something fascinating while we're sitting here listening to her. Mm-hmm. And I've had the pleasure of visiting your place in Nederland. And when I go into a business of any kind, I'm always curious, what makes them successful? And you've given me the answer while you spoke. Mm-hmm. You are passionate. You are dedicated and completely like every part of you is going into this,
100%.
and every part of this is going into you.
Yeah.
And that's really beautiful when somebody has the opportunity to immerse themselves into what they want to do.
Yeah.
I'm very proud to see that y'all, both of you together have made this.
Yeah.
So like it's almost spiritual for both of you. Like that's amazing.
So exciting whenever I hear people say that, because I love knowing that it's so obvious too, because it is. I mean, you meet all the workers there too. Like everyone talks about, we have no turnover. We have the best crew and stuff. And I'm like,
well, that's why.
That's why.
Right there.
Yes. We have a waiting list. You know, we've never had to publicly hire. We have a waiting list to join this crew because you got to love this. You got to love this like we love it. And if you don't, then no hard feelings. Just it's not the right place for you.
That is amazing.
That is. It sounds like you talked just a little bit. We're going to get off of the brew a little bit and on to some of the other things that you guys provide menu-wise, which is obviously the food. And we now know that there's a lot of people get drawn to your restaurant because of the food. How did all that come about?
So with the business plan too, one of the biggest things was we were never going to open a brewery without food. Even no matter how small it had to be, I designed that kitchen off of a food truck. It's 8 foot by 16 foot long. And we put out over 200 pizzas a night on like a Friday and Saturday.
Wow.
Plus, another 125 appetizers, desserts, everything on top of that. You make it as efficient as possible. But if you want people to be able to enjoy your beverages for longer, you have to give them food. You don't need to lose that business for them to go somewhere else or allow, people always want to call them food trucks and stuff, and that's not consistent. That's never a consistent thing. Also, we don't have a space for a food truck to even park or let them, get ASAP delivery there and stuff. And it's just like, just do your own food. But a lot of people are scared of food. But since that was my background, I've been working in restaurants since I was 15. This was very simple for me, to think about it. I do get that people are intimidated by it, but it was a no-brainer. We are not going to open until we have our kitchen fully ready to go. So what goes better with beer than pizza? Pick one thing and be the best at it. If I was going to do burgers, I was going to pick just burgers and be the best at it. And so with the pizzas that we did, they're very different. They have like they're very high quality ingredients. They have 1,000 different layers to it. There's a lot of like intricacies to our pizza to just make it a little different for the area. And from day one, we opened with some of our flagship pizzas that are still our best sellers on our menu today. So there's never a time of Buckstin without the pizza.
That's awesome.
Pick one thing and be the best at
that is.
I think that's a
beautiful
tagline,
philosophy. Right? Yeah, that's a beautiful philosophy.
That is.
What sets you apart from other brewery food places? What sets you apart? I mean, I already kind of know, but I'd like to hear it in your words.
There are so many other inspiring brewery restaurant places too that I think have the same level of passion that Justin and I do, but our absolute life's work is what we're doing right now. That we're literally living the dream. How lucky are we that, oh my gosh, if I'm stressed for 15 minutes, Gabby, you got to quit your job and you get to work at a brewery every day. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that the brewery restaurant, it represents your life.
Yeah.
It is you. You are it. Y'all are combined together.
It's so much bigger than us now.
Yeah.
But it's filled with those people that also feel the exact same way about me.
And speaking about those people, like I said, not only have you been able to attain and retain, and I want to hear more about that. And then there's people if in a sense petitioning to come on board. So are there any things that you guys have learned and then implemented to keep that passion in these folks? Because we can get bogged down into the idea that it is a job, but to keep a passion for a job, is there anything that you would say, well, I like to think I bring these things to them on the regular and that keeps it up?
One of the most important things I think that can go across any business too, especially hospitality. If there's no ownership or managerial presence, you will see them lose the light in their eye so quickly. They can be so gung-ho about the business when they first start because the money's good. It's a new place. We know the tips are going to be great. But if there's no room for growth and they see that the owners or the managers there aren't really caring as much, why would they care anymore?
Exactly.
And it's so important for them to realize, especially in this really cool industry that we're in with craft beer, this is as big or as small as you want to take it. So I know that we've talked about before our stay interviews that we do with retention and everything, because I do check in with them all the time to just see do you want to stay at Buckstin? Let's talk about some of the other dreams and goals that you have. Like, you want to get into the distribution side of it? Let me put you with Randy, my distribution manager, that had 10 years of experience in a managerial role at a huge distribution company in this area. And I would always joke that one day he'd come work for me, and he did. And Steve, my operations manager, who was this chef that I always followed and would go to her pairings, and I loved her. It's her husband who worked in management with the hospitals and with St. E for like all these years. And he was in his 50s too. I always joke too, hey, maybe one day he'll quit, come work for me. And he did. Like, these amazing steals that I've been able to make, but also they are so passionate about Buckstin too. And it's like so contagious. Like, now my kitchen manager, her name's Crystal Lundy, and she used to own this restaurant before the pandemic that I was absolutely obsessed with. I was always obsessed with her food and stuff too. And maybe one day she'll be available to come work for me and run my kitchen. And she did. And it's like all of this stuff that I put into the universe for all these years, that like Buckstin is not just me. Of course, it was our passion, mine and Justin's, when we first started. But it's not even a question of like, are we going to get out of bed every day and like show up and be this animated about it? It's everyone else too. Like, everyone else loves Buckstin. Like, this thing is so much bigger than us now. So much bigger than us. Like, we have 27 people on right now with a list of like probably 100 that I would say are great fits. But, we got to figure out like where we can fit everyone too. And everyone, really at this point is pretty much planning on staying as long as they can. Some people, of course, are transitional and they're in school and everything for finance or very specific things. And what I tell them every time that we talk, I'm like, you use this as your jumping off point. Like, you're in finance. Cool. Hey, these two people in our mug club, they own their own Edward Jones practice, and he's a partner. Make sure you talk to him, shadow him. Like, oh, you want to go to school for this? Optometry. Cool. Go shadow him. And it has led to so many people over the years that, jump off this point and go into their big boy job or their big girl job. Mm-hmm. But what are they doing a month later? They're like, I miss Buckstin. I wish I could go. So they always come back for special events or charity events and, come work. But like, once you're part of the like Buckstin family, they always come back.
What does that feel like to you to know that not only the folks that are with you and dedicated, but then you've also contributed to these other futures to these folks? What's that like for you and Justin?
It feels great.
Yeah.
It feels great. I mean, that's all we want. I mean, I know it could sound so like you're lying about it sometimes, but like, I really just want what's best for them. Yeah. I don't want you to work for me if you have a dream to do something else. Me and Justin did that for so long. Right. And I can smell it a mile away. If you start coming to work one day and I'm like, you're not happy, whether it's your relationship or something's going on at home or this isn't for you, you're not going to hurt my feelings. I only want you to be somewhere that you absolutely love. And if that's not Buckstin, you know that there's 100 people that would like to be in your position. So let's talk about like what we can do to make this better.
Yes. So that is a consistent theme among a lot of our owner operators that come in. And
caring about your employees.
It's caring about people. It's caring about people. I mean, yes, it's about, the product and the service. It's about the people. Yeah. Because the people really what make it.
That's all it is.
Yes. Yeah. So it sounds like Buckstin's getting ready to nearly double that size of folks with a new location.
Definitely at the new location. Yeah. We'll have.
Will you keep both or will you move to one or how will that work?
Me?
Yeah, well, would there be two locations?
Oh, yes. Okay. So Nederland's just going to get, more attention. We're going to, the whole back portion of it where we have the brewery that, you can see everything. We'll sell all of that, all as one good turnkey operation for a brewery that needs a good 7-barrel system and all the fermenters. Probably tear down that grain room, expand the kitchen a little bit, give them some dry storage and some space that they desperately need. Build our office back. We used to have an office. We had to tear it down to put more tanks, but expand that seating in there. That'll kind of be the original Buckstin. I would say like if Beaumont is the production area and the, big Buckstin, that'll be like Buckstin Express because it is in that old historical building. It's so long, so like 25 foot across, but 125 foot deep. So it's a really long, deep rectangle. But we'll always have that as like our satellite tap room. Yeah. And continue serving the best food and beer that we can out of there as well.
So you're just going to do a whole new construction of tank system.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. So nothing will move. This is all brand new.
All brand new. Wow. Yeah. It's already in there. We commissioned that a couple of years ago. We had a 7-barrel system at our original location. We have a 20-barrel system. in Beaumont now.
Almost three times as much.
Oh, and that's just the brewing system.
Yeah.
So we have to brew twice to fill up every tank that we currently have. So we have 14 and 15 barrel fermenters. At our new location, we have 40 and 60 barrel fermenters.
Oh, wow.
So our largest right now is 15. Our largest in Beaumont is 60. So we'll be brewing, 3 times to fill that one in a 20 barrel brew house.
Yes.
So we have a lot more capacity.
And you do all your own canning and things on site?
Yep, we do that all on site, which much nicer canning line because the one that we have here is rough, but growth has been painful in our tiny, tiny space. So we're doing it right this time.
Mother of necessity. I love it.
We grew organically, just faster than we thought.
Can you imagine, or did you ever imagine in your traveling days to Madrid and all that kind of stuff, and then coming back and you and Justin being together and everything, did you ever imagine that you'd have this the way it is? Did you ever imagine that you would be a hub of a community and all these seeds of life just being cast off?
For that. You always hope for that. But then once you're kind of on that journey of building that business plan and we were both so focused on it, you just hope it's the ultimate, if you build it, they will come, that you just keep reminding yourself of, because, you've really, the gambling of your life's savings on it and everything that you have to your name is scary. But we were so young and we didn't have kids. We had nothing, we're just flipping these houses. We both had jobs that we hated. So we're like, okay, so we can gamble it all, lose it all, and have to work for the rest of our lives. Or we can gamble it all and it pay off. And we can quit our jobs and get to do that for the rest of our lives. So I was like, okay, so either way, we'd have to continue doing what we're doing right now, which was working for the rest of our lives. So
that's the worst case scenario.
Yeah, that's the worst case scenario.
So no loss.
Yeah, because we weren't losing our skills. We weren't losing our jobs. We were doing this all on the side. We went SVA funding because we were private equity, just him and I. And they don't let you quit your job. You can't say that you're going to quit your job.
Right.
You're like, yeah, I'm going to keep these jobs. We did, honestly, for a long time. Do that as best as we could until we just couldn't sustain it anymore.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a sip of water.
Absolutely. While you do that, we'll work up a few more questions. So now that you've been in this for a while, there's expansion. There's all of the the cool little extras, like getting to go to Europe and doing just that whirlwind 2 weeks and all that. So who's your biggest competitor in all of this?
I don't know. That's tough to say. I guess you could get specific on if we had a specific pizza competitor and if we had a specific brewery competitor. But in Beaumont, there's really not enough of either. One, Beaumont doesn't have a brewery for the city of its size. It doesn't. We have Struggle Street now in downtown, on Calder. Poor Brothers is no longer open anymore, but there's not a regional size brewery that can support something like that, the size of Beaumont, that is 10 times the population of Nederland. And we don't have enough pizza places for Beaumont either. We have, Italian restaurants, we have Mellow Mushroom, we used to have Crown Pizza, but we just don't have enough places to really give Beaumont what it deserves. That's what we just keep saying. It's Beaumont is underserved. There's so many people in Beaumont that are driving to Lake Charles every weekend, driving to Houston for a date night, for dinner and drinks at a place that, they don't go 3 times a week already. There's just not enough serving Beaumont. So if
there's not enough, that kind of only leaves
just a hole in the market.
Yeah.
You compete against yourself.
Yeah.
Also, what could compete with us? We make our own.
Exactly. You created a market.
Yeah, we made it. So,
and that's the idea. And that's where he was going with the question is the majority of people who sit where you're sitting, that's what they say. And you said it, you were just working your way to it, but no one competes against you.
Yeah.
You fail or succeed on your own merits, not because anyone else beat you, but because you constantly strive to do better than you did the day before.
Yeah. The only thing is maybe pizza. Maybe somebody likes the other type of pizza. I love Neapolitan style pizza. That's not what I make. But, you know, one day maybe I'll have a beautiful wood-fired oven and I can do that myself. But, you know, for what I do for Buckstin is just a different type of pizza. So I guess I can get specific with that.
No, you did fine. You did perfectly fine.
It seems to me like all along the way, you and Justin had just competed with fulfilling your own dream.
Yeah.
You know, and really at the end of the day, we compete with ourselves. I don't really compete with other people.
Yeah.
You, the two of you and your team put out the best possible, compilation of product and service, and people will choose or not.
Yeah, and there's a statistic that I would always use. I'm going to butcher the numbers, but I'll give you all an idea of it. That I would always use in like our PowerPoints that I would show for like economic stimulation for the city of Nederland and for the SBA and everything, that how much human beings have always evolved since we figured out how to make alcohol to have a third place, right? You know, you have work, you have home, but you need that third place. With breweries, there's so much less of a stigma of, if you go to a bar every day, well, then you're a bar rat. But if you go to a brewery every day, no, it's different.
It's a restaurant, everything. Yeah.
Family friendly. It's just beer. It's not like you're taking shots there and getting wasted. Like this is not that vibe. So from the founding of the United States until Prohibition, when the population of the country stayed under like 8 million. Well, when it was really, really small, I believe that we had like 1,700 breweries in the United States because they had to be in such close proximity that you can get to with like your horse and buggy.
Yeah.
So there was a brewery for like every 49 adult males in the United States. Obviously, we get to Prohibition, there's 0. We did not, as a country, get back to that number until 2014 when the country's population was, in the billions. We did not recover from when we had 10 times the population.
That's almost 100 years later.
Until 2014.
Wow.
Yes.
I had no idea of that.
But because people crave this watering hole, this third place, that it's the ultimate farm to table, that your beer is brewed right there and served to you right here. This is not something that you can just, which you can grab ours at the store, but it makes it so much more personal. It's this like sense of city pride too, like how involved we are in the community and like how many partnerships that we do. We've never said no to anything charitable. Like anytime people need us to set up and give out beer for free, like we are happy to be there and do it for free always.
I think you just said something huge and you may not even realize it. That third place, they're seeking a place of community.
Yeah.
And that's what your place offers. This place of community where they're not being judged, where they're able to relax, be themselves, make friends, see old friends, that whole thing.
Yep.
And that's amazing.
That's where the word pub came from, is public house.
Yeah.
And so a brew pub, the type of license that we have, is short for brewery public house. How it evolved. It was a public house that people went to that, it was mostly women brewers at the time, in the 1800s and stuff. They'd be in the back of a house that they open up publicly to brew the beer and serve to whoever needed to come at the end of the day, right before they came home. Get food, get a loaf of bread, get a couple beers. I mean, shoot, our Constitution was written in a pub. Like essentially, like I got to go when my sister lived up in Alexandria, Virginia for a little while down there. And there was a little pub that we'd go to in downtown Alexandria that like George Washington would go to every day. And they have all these little placards around the house of like the type of beer. He wrote down his own beer recipes at Mount Vernon. They found his little make his own beer too, have them make their own beer there too. And it's so neat. I mean, our country's founded on it.
I had no idea. It's
in all of us.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it is. It's in our DNA, our American DNA.
Yep.
Yeah. And to, not just enjoy beer, but to collect publicly.
Yep.
That's what we do.
Yes.
Yeah. And yes. And you can go back even to the beginnings of even scripture. And that was one of the pros and the punishments. And one of the punishments for, and we'll just go back to Cain and Abel. The reason his punishment was, you're out of the community. And he reacted to God. He goes, "Ooh, that's more than I can bear." And I heard Jordan Peterson talk about that one time. He said, read into that. He said, he didn't give him what he gave his brother. He gave him the door. You're out. And he said, that's more than I can bear. That's basically what he was saying. You're taking away my community. So we're bringing it back.
Yeah.
We're bringing it back.
I know. Isn't that cool?
That is cool.
Back to community. your community in specific. You talked about how brewers it's a very close, very like loving, sharing community. And you're a very committed member of that community. What mark do you want to leave on your industry? What is your legacy? What do you think, or what do you strive to leave behind? You remember you said earlier that your uncle died, and they heard all those things said about him.
Yeah. What
do you want to be said about you?
Oh, I have my answer locked and loaded on this, because this is my absolute life's work. And I tell you this all the time. The one change that I wish that I hope that I'm helping in the United States and everything is the way that we view the hospitality industry as not being a career. It is absolutely a career.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
Absolutely a career. But it also takes, a level of education and really seeing all the back end of it. Here, it's always like, oh, you're bartending, you're doing this. Well, what about next? Oh, you're in school, so you're bartending. Oh, you're doing this, so you're waiting tables. Well, I have built my business to make sure that if you want this to be your career, it's as big or as small as you want to take it. We offer great health insurance, cover their dependents. We have 401k for every single person, full-time or not, with matching. We have time off. We have, time for family. We have all these other fringe benefits too that we do to try to change the stigma in Southeast Texas and the United States, really, that like this can be a career for you. And you don't always have to work these late nights and these crazy hours and stuff. There's a balance so that you can be there for your family. We might require a couple nights a week if we have special events and stuff for people that have been with us for a long time. But why wouldn't you want to be there? Like those are those kind of things where you're like, no, I want to be at work. If any of my people aren't working, you know where they are? They're at Buckstin.
They're hanging out.
They're hanging out. Like they're all there anyway. So they're like, might as well be making money.
Right.
I've never had issues, getting somebody to cover a shift or anything. But especially spending all that time in Europe this year, you see how they act in Vienna. We were in Austria and stuff. These men, they go to school to learn hospitality. And then the way that they come back and serve you with like such pride, and it is so highly respected to like be doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
And especially the ones that are in like Cologne, Germany and Dusseldorf that serve the specific style of beer, like Kolsch beer and alt beer. They have a special uniform. Like,
it's prestigious.
It's so prestigious. It's so highly respected of what they do. And the youngest one that I probably saw the whole time that we were there was maybe 40 years old. And
wow.
Yeah.
That is a wow.
Yeah.
I've got a huge follow-up question.
Yeah.
Did you bring a couple applications?
We have
because we
employment tab on buckstinbrewing.com. You can fill out your information, and whenever we get to hiring next month, we are sending out some emails about further questions before we start interviewing.
So you're okay with hiring a couple of past 40 guys, that might,
We have a whole range.
Hey. I mean, you sound so passionate. I mean, it's hard to avoid that care. That care is contagious.
Yes. No, that is beautiful. I love the ambition to leave the legacy, to change the perception. Mm-hmm. That's what it's all about. If we can affect people's perception, we'll affect the experience and beyond.
Yeah.
And yes.
Most of my people that are there now too have college degrees. Like they've gone through these years of kind of like this guilt, whether it's that their parents didn't know that they were putting this guilt on them of like, you have a college degree, why don't you have a real job? And they're like, this is a real job. Like, look, and then I'm working against that to try to prove to them that it is. And, they've never been happier.
Well, it's tough too, because the area we're in is so industrially, mentally, that's what we think. We think, well, you're gonna go to school and you're gonna go to work at the plant.
Yep.
That's what you're gonna do, right? Yep. We've talked about that on the show.
Or some other cliche path,
Yeah.
That's part of the reason earlier when we were talking about when high school, was wrapping, what was next. That's the reason I ask it that way, because clichely, if we're standing in amongst a bunch of kids in the bleachers, they go, well, where are you going to college? Yeah. Well, that is not the ideal question. The ideal question is what's next.
Yeah.
I just told a young man that yesterday. yesterday. I said, what will be next? He's a senior. What will be next for you? And he picked up on it. He did not mention the C word. He started mentioning industries. I'll go, there you go.
Yeah.
Because follow that passion, and you will get there.
Yeah, I always wanted to do cosmetology, but then I dealt with the self-guilt of like, had my college paid for, I had all this other stuff, and I'm like, oh, but cosmetology is a backup thing. And so, but then what did I do after all these years of all these other jobs? I got all these degrees, but all I wanted to do was go back and do that. And I did way later when I had to pay for it. But I mean, yesterday I saw, they do those mock interviews for high school seniors where they need people from all these industries to come in and help interview them and everything. And it's a person that I actually know. And like they're regulars at Buckstin and they know what we do there, and posted this whole list of people that they still needed. 50 industries probably listed, and not a single one had anything to do with restaurant, hospitality, brewery, nothing. And I'm like, like we should at least be coming up on a list like that.
You would think.
But because they really did focus on a lot of like trades too. They were like, welders, scaffold workers, like, I appreciate that they did all that. But I'm like, the biggest one, during pandemic when we were shut down, who were y'all clamoring for? Y'all wanted your restaurants back open. You wanted your bars back open.
That's right.
Food and beverage is never going anywhere. People will never need to not eat and drink. We will always have to do that. And we'll always want to gather publicly when we do that.
One of our acquaintances, and I won't do a name, but maybe we'll have him as a guest one time, has shifted his whole philosophy of he was a caterer. He has now shifted that to consulting. Mainly for the same reasons that you're mentioning, is that people are missing an opportunity to have incredible lifelong experiences. So he's starting to talk to folks more in your role as owner-operators and managers to create an environment where that can happen. And there's other things too, marketing and what have you. But when it comes to their team, is recruiting these people who are going to have this perpetual experience for a career. Yeah. And he and I were chatting about that the other day, and I said that, and I thought of you. That's why you were invited to be a guest, because I think Gabby's got the philosophy. And so it's going to be pretty cool to see if he too can have that influence on the industry, because you're doing it for sure. Yeah. So
being forthcoming and sharing with your information that's worked for you.
Indeed. Yeah. Indeed. But I don't know. I love the idea. I love the passion. I hope we can even be a part of it too. Just not only even off the air, to help change that perception. Because if it didn't make the list of 50, then obviously there's a brokenness there that needs to be fixed. Because these things can be not only personally profitable, but financially they can have a whole career, like these 40-plus-year-olds in Europe, and they will do this until they can do whatever version of retirement they may want to call it. Yeah. Which is pretty cool. Yeah. Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
So we need to reframe the perspective around the hospitality industry.
Yes.
And I agree with that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
That is.
So I'd like to shift just a little bit. I'd like to do something with you that we've never done with another guest. Okay. Not because we wouldn't, just because you're the first of your kind that we've been able to bring on our show. And we appreciate you. So you're a brewer. You have some specialty products that you don't find anywhere else in their exact form.
Yes.
So if you would, tell us all what kinds of beer you sell.
Well, we have a little bit of everything.
Okay.
Ales and lagers. We like to say that we are purists about everything. We want to brew beer that the average drinker is going to enjoy. So if you've had nothing but Michelob Ultra or something, that is such a challenge to a brewer too. To brew something that clean and that clear and that consistent every single time, that's nothing that we've ever turned our nose up at. So, our flagship beer, our Easy Breezy, it's a blonde, and it actually...
Oh, right here. Same one you brought with you.
Yep. So that's always our sellingest beer, and it has been from day one. Even though we have brewed lagers that are lighter than that, this one's an ale. People will always go back to this one. It has that little tiny bit of honey sweetness from the malt, but not too much. It's just, back to the drinkability. It's so drinkable, and you just want a second one. It doesn't dry your mouth out, anything like that. And then our strawberry right here, just a hint of strawberry. It's not fruit on the end. Our fruit is added before fermentation, so I always just say it's a suggestion of strawberry. It's just a little bit of strawberry sweetness that we add to that one too. We are highly influenced by truly German beers. We love German Pilsners and super influenced by Belgian beers as well. So the Mute is another Belgian beer that we have.
That's the one in the middle for those of you looking.
So Belgian Saison. We love the originals. You know, those are those breweries that have literally, I mean, you can't even say stood the test of time because they were established in like 1112 and they have never closed their doors.
That's
like
awesome.
They have continued being open.
Wow.
So especially when we were in Bamberg this year, you know, these breweries, we're joking by the end of it because some of them, the newest ones in that city, Bamberg is this incredible city that never got destroyed in World War II. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's like you can barely drive in it. It's just so cool. So it's preserved. These breweries, like the newest one was from like 15 something.
Oh, wow.
We're like joking, like, oh, this is so new school. Like you're
this is so modern.
Yeah. Like that is when, you know, Christopher Columbus is sailing over. Like this is like parts of history that like I cannot believe these two things were happening at one time, and I'm sitting
so crazy.
Yes,
making the same types of beers as they were making 500, 600, 1,000 years ago.
Wild.
That
is wild.
Actual test of time. So we like to focus on that, and that was the big focus in the European Brewers Conference this year because they also had the head of the Craft Brewers Guild in the United States come out, and they did a panel with the head of the European Brewers Union. Where they just kind of had this conversation of like, why do you think all of these breweries in the United States are closing down now? Because there, of course, were a lot of problems post-pandemic, but there was this huge trend in craft beer for so long in the United States of just them doing these crazy beers and these, you know, super triple chocolate chip milkshake stout with like, you know, these IPAs that have like sprinkles in them. And
I was going to get to that. I was going to ask you about this IPA stuff.
Like, sure, there was a trend and there was a time for that. And like, yes, we've done, you know, some little catchy beers when we were closed for the pandemic. We can only sell to go. You know, I made a pickle beer. Like I did things to, you know, get attention. But our focus has always been on the drinkable beers, the clean beers, true to style, and, you know, stick to the basics and just pick something and be the best. You know?
I love that.
You can be the best.
And I'm going to point out something that may be obvious to you because it's, you know, you're in Nederland, but Nederland has this festival every year called the Heritage Festival. Okay. And you guys are carrying on the tradition of World Heritage beers.
Every
that
year
is amazing.
Heritage Festival, we brew a lager with like Dutch influence, Czech influence. It's called Niederlager.
What?
And the whole can of it is like all these different motifs from Nederland. We have the tulips.
That's amazing.
Nancy the pug dressed with like the Nederland with the little dirndl with her little pigtails and stuff. You know, all of this like Nederland heritage things to like talk about the Dutch heritage in Nederland because it really is so interesting. Like
it is
this little tiny town in Texas that was a truly Dutch settlement.
Yes.
Some of the family's still there, and it's so neat. We have a heritage society. Like people don't recognize how cool that is. I have perspective because I didn't grow up here, and I'm like, y'all are so lucky.
You're wasting it. Yeah.
They're just like, oh, I thought it was just like, you know, the spring day festival that we had every year. I'm like, no, like y'all have an actual Dutch heritage here, and it's so cool.
Yes.
So yeah, we brew a beer for that every year.
That's amazing.
I love the tribute. That's awesome.
September, October, we do a Bucktoberfest every year.
What? Which
is an Oktoberfest style Marzen or Oktoberfest beer or a Marzen really. Lagered, you know, perfectly clean, crisp, and we'll be having a festival for it next year.
Well, and I know for sure a couple of years ago, I only presume this year because I wasn't able to go to the Oktoberfest here in Beaumont.
Mm-hmm.
Were you guys
yes.
The featured product?
So they do a great job of sourcing, you know, like good German beers and stuff there too. Mm-hmm. But yes, we have our own line in the beer tent. Okay. And you know, it's such a good feeling to watch that line. I mean, we went through 14 full-size kegs that day.
Wow.
Each keg having over 100 beers in it. And that's just us with all these other, you know, world-class breweries. So it's really exciting seeing that picture when we got to stack them up like a pyramid at the end of the day and pose with them and see how much beer we had gone through in just a couple hours.
Wow.
It's really neat to
I know I went
with that.
to 2 years ago. Again, I wasn't in town for this particular year, and the line was out the tent, and that was just for you guys. Yeah, I don't know who else was around, but I was like, so it was pretty cool when I got up there and all your Buckstin people were there. I'm like, I know these people.
It's awesome to see it. Yeah.
So, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
With to brag on Justin a little bit too, like with what an incredible brewer he is and how scientific he is. When we had opened, so there's the big 3 beer competitions in the world. One of them, World Beer Cup. I won't remember them right now, but within just a few months of us having been open, and it's like a lifelong dream. If we won a silver medal one time, he won a gold medal and a silver medal within like 3 months of us being open.
Wow.
Our medal cabinet now of what he has won, because we'd enter these as home brewers, and he'd win everything, like all this. I'm like, okay, well maybe they're just like being nice, but then
not so much.
We're getting all this feedback, like professional feedback from people who know what they're talking about. Having friends over, of course, they're going to say that the beer tastes good. It's free beer. So then we're getting real notes from these people that are cicerones, which is like a sommelier for beer, and we're like, wait, no, we can actually do something with this.
Justin got them skills, huh? Yeah, buddy.
And like, let me tell you, this man eats, sleeps, dreams beer. Like if he's not making it, he's research. Like he lives for this. I mean,
he couldn't be here today because he's making beer.
That's right. That's right. But I think that's a calling. That's what that
awesome.
is.
Oh no,
and he's following it.
The medals now that we have like up there, it's absolutely incredible to see and really get that feedback from those professionals, like going against these beers across the world, like people that invented these styles.
That's amazing.
And he's perfecting it. It's so cool to see.
So where can people? Do you have? Can they buy your beer in the store? I mean, where can they all work?
So our tap room is going to have your largest selection. Pretty much everything that we have on tap, we'll have in cans out of our tap room. Our largest partner is HEB.
Okay.
So HEB, Beaumont, Nederland, Lumberton. We have quite a few HEBs. Red's Liquors around town. Market Baskets in Mid-County, Port Neches, Nederland, a couple in Beaumont, the Speedy Stop. I mean, we're in a ton of liquor stores. We have like over 100 different places on tap. You can enjoy some of the smaller kegs that we don't release in the cans in store at JW Patio, J. Wilson's, Carrabba's, 5 Under. I mean, there's tons of partners.
So y'all ask for...
What?
Throw your name.
Buckstin.
I was giving you a shameless plug. Anytime you're out of town and you're in the Beaumont or Southeast Texas area, ask for ask what Buckstin beer do you have on tap.
Yep.
Yeah, that was your chance, and I didn't cue you up well enough, and I apologize for that. So we're getting close to the end now, and there's a question that I ask every guest. Sometimes Chuck asked it, but he missed it. I got to do it first.
Yeah, sure.
So if you could go back in time and speak to your younger self, give yourself a message, okay, that would help you or impact you moving forward in life. And let's say you go back to your 15-year-old, maybe 17-year-old self. Let's say before Tal.
Okay.
Before Tal. So that would be 15 probably, right? What would you tell yourself?
I'd say probably don't drag your feet as much when you have that gut feeling, because that's kind of been the common theme of every time I've had a gut feeling. It's taken me a long time. It's taken me a very roundabout way of getting back to it, when I always knew like what I wanted to do at the beginning. But no, I have this guilt, or, I need to make other people happy. So then I do all these other things, when at the end of the day, 3 years later, I'm like, I should have just done that 3 years ago.
So believe in yourself.
Yeah.
That seems like a very common theme.
I mean, it's easy to say when things pay off, but even if I had failed at some of them, I don't do hair anymore. Obviously, I don't have the time for it. I still, love that side of my life, but this is, what I'm focusing on now.
That's amazing. It's perfect.
Yeah. Don't drag your feet.
Don't drag your feet as much.
Yeah.
So the follow-up to that is taking it on in a broader sense. If you were talking to someone else who was on the cusp of growing up, maybe venturing out, what might you tell them? I mean, you've taken the risk, you've done the thing.
Yeah. Here
you are. What might you tell someone who is aspiring?
My answer to that always is like much more methodical, is get it on paper. You need an ironclad business plan. And like, it's not just this dream. It's not just, oh, I have investors and stuff. That dream's only going to get you so far. And while we were building this brewery, and they always say, all these other people that built breweries, take your budget and double it. Me and Justin always sit back and we're like, we have accounted for everything to the dime. If we need to double our budget, we messed up really bad somewhere. And we never did. We've never ran into that. We've always come in under budget. Like we had extrapolations for if it's a Tuesday and we're at 80% capacity and people are drinking 1 beer an hour and half a pizza per person, like what would our profits look like year over year for the next 3 years? Like it is, once you get your data and you're like putting it into spreadsheets, and there's so many great free resources with the Small Business Center out of Lamar, Port Arthur, and that can also help you in Beaumont too. They can help you build that business plan from scratch.
Yeah.
If y'all need help with it, or books, or just YouTube videos or anything like that, but you have to have it written down perfectly. And that has, I think that truly made the difference with us, is that we spent so long on that plan, so that whenever we did meet with these banks and these insurance agents and all these other people, who's going to listen to these two kids that like we don't have anything to our name, like we both have other jobs, but like give us a couple $100,000 and see what happens. And they did with no they would keep telling us, they're like, we have never done an SBA 7A loan when y'all have no experience. And we're like, but we had a great business plan. So when you always have that to fall back on, I mean, I still reference it, and we started that almost 7 years ago, and I still reference it for certain things. It was like 64 pages. And I share that with anyone who asks.
That's awesome.
I send that to everyone.
Right.
And then I had a business expansion plan too. That was so much easier when I was going for the expansion. That loan was 6 times what the original one was. So that was crazy. It's not like we paid off the first one. We're asking for this insane thing for the second one. So it was, you got to have something to fall back on that's ironclad. So
it sounds like
it's not as dreamy and romantic.
Right.
Your gut, like, no. You got to go back to the basics.
Yeah. It sounds like that is the, for you guys at least, and probably for anybody who would, it's the system that channels the energy, is that plan.
Yeah.
And if you got a system, call it a plumbing system or electrical system, whatever, that's where the energy is going to go. And obviously you guys worked it, matured it, to the point where you could see it, probably have it almost memorized if you were really to sit down and close your eyes, because you just you nursed it so much until it became its own entity. And so all your energy is going that way. You mentioned earlier about just keep calling out to the universe. And that is a systematic thing. We just keep saying this over and over.
How can I manifest something if I don't fully understand it?
Yeah.
So I think that me having such a great understanding of like, our numbers need to look like this. I need to sell this many beers a day, and I need this kind of workers, because I put it on paper. That helped me manifest it, because I was like, it's on paper already. I've already put it into the universe. I've already told people I'm doing it. So it was always something for me to go back to, of like, not just an idea. No, I put it on paper. This is how much I need to make.
You created it before it became tangible.
Yep.
That's awesome. And then not only that, but there are times inevitably, even though you are so full of passion, so full of energy, and so committed to your direction, there are times inevitably where you get tired. And in those moments, you have a piece of paper telling you your direction, reminding you, this is why I am where I am and I'm going where I'm going.
3 a.m. I'm like, am I insane for doing this? Should I build a second location today?
So then you pick up that piece of paper.
So I look at the trajectory. I'm like, okay, we're fine.
And it gives you that,
get through one more day.
It gives you that concrete source of rejuvenation that you can say, I believe in this because that.
At the end of the day, every business has to make money. It has to be profitable.
Absolutely.
One way or another for it to continue existing. And these are all the necessary evils of it. But I love that idea of using it as motivation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I would bet that you've already done it. You just probably didn't think of it that way.
It's a what's it called? Security blanket.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
I've already submitted these numbers and signed off to them.
You've got 64 pages of your quilt. You could have it all like put on cloth and make a quilt out of it and like cover up with it at night.
There you go. Keeps so warm.
Well, from this side, I'm very honored that you've come on with us today. It's been a great pleasure. I've loved hearing your stories about your travels and about your community, about it's basically like it's a family, the brewers and, the others that are similar to you. Thank you so much for sharing. I had no idea. I've learned a lot today. I love that.
You're from a brewery family.
Yes. No, but I learned about this. This is a whole different aspect. Chuck, do you have any other questions?
Not questions, but just comments. Thank you, Gabby. Thanks for coming on. And thank you for being dedicated to developing everything that you have, not only inside yourself, but then you shared that. Now you and Justin, and then now your whole work family. And I think people are going to glean a whole lot, because I'm sure there's people sitting out there that they have an idea, they have a passion, they're sitting in their room right now, maybe they're writing songs or something, and have no idea that these things can fully come to life. Yeah. And here you are, less than a decade in, and it's happening. And I really appreciate that. I knew we would get that from you, but I just wanted to hear you say it, because there were details I didn't even know, and you and I have known each other for a bit. Yeah. And I just appreciate you. Thank you so much. And what a difference you're making. And you're going to make a difference in that hospitality world. People will know in probably near future that this is something people can pour into for life. Yes. And so
very excited.
Yeah. And so thank you for thanks for coming. Thank you for all of it.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to add before we close?
Nope. I mean, we'll be hiring soon. Talked about, anything that y'all are interested in. Our website is buckstinbrewing.com. On there, we still have like our sponsorship opportunities. If you want to put your business logo or name or something on a table or a stool or anything at our new location. We have some huge ones on the tanks, like where we do the brewery tours. We have some mug club spots still available. You can fill out the information for employment on there.
What about catering and events? Do you do any of that stuff?
We don't do that yet.
Okay.
In our Beaumont location, we are building a private room.
Okay.
There will be a private room there, and eventually on the website, you'll be able to fill out the information for that as well.
But
I won't be booking any of those until once we get that like full opening date.
What's your ETA on that? Yeah.
Looking like mid-March right now.
Okay.
So we need these temporary permits so that we can start getting the brewing operation going. Is what's worse than having a grand opening and you run out of beer? Can't do that. So we need to get enough beer in those tanks to last us through opening and keep going. So the second that we get some of those permits that we're waiting on, a couple of other things that are going, but that brew house has been the priority first. Getting that side of it ready, and hopefully we're just about 6-8 weeks out.
Very good.
Crunch time.
Well, thank you again for being our guest. It's been a privilege. Chuck, is there anything else?
No, thank you.
Well, everybody out there, thank you guys for joining us again here at Pursuit of Purpose, and thank you for allowing us to become a part of the pursuit of your purpose. Again, I'm Robbie.
I'm Chuck.
And today we've had with us
Gabrielle.
And we all hope you have a great day. Thank you very much.